Hey, welcome to the Rain and Morale podcast. So do you ever feel like screaming out in the office, on Zoom or outside the school gates, for the love of God, come on, really? Then if this is you and you're looking for an honest, fun and frank podcast on life and business, then sit back and listen to me, Rain and Morale. I'll be bringing great people on the show to talk, share and debate their life experiences and business challenges, keeping the show unpolished, but in a fun and unique British style, with sarcasm, tenacity, maybe a few swear words or tears. This podcast keeps it real, honest, raw, and removes the bullshit in the only way I know how, through authenticity and getting shit done. Think of it less like the Housewives of New York or Towie with the lipo and drama, and more like the house lives of the real world. I hope you'll take something away to be better informed, laugh, smile, or maybe even finally getting the confidence to shout, come on really. So enjoy. Hey, welcome to the Rain and Morale podcast. I'm delighted to have Gaetan Cuvillier with me today. How are you?
Very well, given the situation, not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, it's Friday. I'm not sure if this will go out on a Friday, but it's Friday, so I've got a bit of a Friday feeling, and it's still a bit sunny. So yeah, we'll go with that. But as we both just said, we're surviving. For the listeners, I am delighted to have Gaetan with us today. We caught up a couple of weeks ago just to find out a little bit more about his story, and so I'm not going to steal his thunder because he's going to go through that and tell you, but Gaetan really has always been kind of a social entrepreneur and a huge passion for all things the environment, and like many of us has experienced many frustrations and then has gone out to change it themselves and change the problem, create some solutions. So he created the Oak Network, which he'll tell you more about in a bit, and the value and understanding of data and how that can be used to benefit us. So thank you again for joining me, Gaetan. It's a pleasure to have you. So let's dive straight in. Straight away, I would love it if you could just tell the listeners a little bit about your background as a young child living off the grid.
Yeah. We had the story. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, my story is a bit different because of the way I was raised. Simply because when my dad turned 40, his big dream was to buy a sailing boat and travel the world. He was reading books when he was a young child about sailors and traveling the world. So that was really something that he was passionate about. So at the age of 40, he did it and took us, my mother, my brother, as the plus ones, and we went around the world. And I think at an age of 12, we were able to very quickly realize, okay, this isn't normal. This is freaking cool, but this is not normal. You know, we could realize, okay, we are living something that not many people are going to have the chance to experience. And because it was on the boat and it was all around nature, I think it was my dad's way, because my dad had seen how brands had taken over the world, and he really wasn't happy about that. Like, he didn't understand why a pair of jeans could be $250 when that's not the way. So I think it was his way to show us nature, what nature has, the beautiful thing of nature, some of the things that are threatened to disappear. And yeah, and at the age of 12, I guess it just gave me a complete different approach of I guess circular economy and how things can work in a very simple and easy manner. And us, it meant having more freedom, not having to go to port, being able to stay off grid and in the middle of nowhere for weeks, sometimes months. And that was really what was exciting my parents, was to really be in the middle of nowhere. So I guess that's how I was raised, and that's what I'm trying to do with the Oak Network and the energy crisis that we're having now, is bring some of those thinking and feeling of freedom and of independence and of green that I had on the boat to businesses and others on land now.
So, and that's it's such an incredible experience, you know, for a child. And I guess you don't realize it until you get older, just how unique that experience was. So kudos to your dad. But obviously, having spent so long living off grid, things like electricity, water, sanitation, all of those things, you've had a relationship with solar. It was just, I guess, part of what you had on the boat. So what how did you manage that? How did you manage the peaks and the troughs of having a guaranteed source, or then deciding, I really need to do something about this?
But I think that's exactly what everybody is going through now. Is it's not an Amazon Prime. We didn't arrive on the boat and we knew. It's a learning curve. It's a journey. You start somewhere and then you identify, okay, what do we want more? What do we want less? What are we happy with? An example, we had, it was 1,000 liter of water, but only 250 of diesel on the boat when we arrived, when we got the boat. And my dad was like, okay, we're gonna take half of a water tank out because we can produce water with a desalination machine. However, I can't produce diesel. And if I have diesel, then I can put the generator, I can put the water machine, I can put this, I can put that. So we had a need to have more diesel in case there was no wind or something. And the water, we could make it on board. And I remember as a concept, I was like, no, water is important. Like, we're not giving water away. Like it was kind of, and then
You're like, I can't drink diesel. Dad,
yeah,
stop it.
no. As a child, for me, it was the opposite. It was like, no, more water. Like, it's okay. But obviously you then understand how the whole thing works. And it's about balance. And I think that's what it taught us from super young age is, what is it that you want? How can you balance it? And wastage is stupid. On a boat, wastage is the most stupid thing that you can have, because you're wasting something that if you had, you're just better off, And I was saying this to my team earlier this week. So on the boat, you really have this not this code of conduct, but it's like you have the captain. So my dad was the captain. The boat was his thing. My mother, my brother, and I were tourists on the boat when we arrived there. It was completely brand new to us. So the captain represents trust. The captain represents safety, and the captain, has to make decision based on the boat safety, but the people on board. And I was just turning things around with the crisis at the moment. So, okay, so there's not one more water river in the UK that's not polluted. It's official. So your water source is polluted. So on the boat, my dad would say, water source polluted. Mm-hmm. Then gas reserve in the UK have been stopped 5 years ago. So we don't have any more gas.
Yeah.
And then you say, energy-wise, we didn't plan it. So power cut, unexpected, this and that. Mutiny. Like, that's it. We would have not, my mother, my brother, and I would have just gone to my dad and gone, okay, that's it. Your story stops there, because the 4 things we actually need to and everything hasn't been planned.
Yeah. I love that. And I guess for you as well, you're living a world of solar and wind, so you're taking natural wind to try and conserve the diesel. See, there's a concept here, and Europe have been playing with it about, and they do it in Asia, about just having blackouts and making that a regular thing, and everyone freaks out. But I'm like, on a boat, I guess you just do that. It's about conserving.
And my main information is we would be screwed if we didn't have the information. We just had a dial, like we had a boat and a dial of how full the batteries were. We were in full control. Everybody thinks that you go off grid or you do this and you're suddenly going to lose this freedom. Absolutely not. You actually gain that freedom because you're like, okay, today was a really sunny day. We can do this. I'll do the washing machine today because it was a really sunny day. Today wasn't a sunny day. Okay, screw this. The machine can wait tomorrow. Do I really need to do my washing machine today? No. You balance it out yourself. And I think it's exactly what we're trying to say, people at the Oak Network, with our members. We don't call them customers, they're members, because we're helping them. I think that's, we're taking our knowledge and technology to really deliver that sense of freedom. Is if you really understand that you're better off, and as yourself, you're better off. If there is a power cut, you're not affected. You can consume 100% green. You can communicate about it.
Yeah.
I think what the climate crisis has shown is the consumer has the right to decide what kind of energy powers their future.
Exactly. And a word that you said quite a few times, which very much resonates with me, is about that freedom. It's a freedom of choice. It's a freedom of flexibility. And I think
it's exactly how solar should have been sold in this country when we started the solar revolution 10 years ago. Is it can lead to freedom. You invest in now, your business could be no more electricity bill in 10 years. Oh, wow. And now that everybody sees their bill going up, they're all realizing, okay, if I make that investment now and I sacrifice something else, but I have to sacrifice whatever. Sacrifices are going to have to happen. Like, we cannot continue this unsustainable way. It's just, that's what COVID, that's what all of it stopped us. So as a business, if I'm like, okay, I can be greener, I can be more, and like energy security is going to become more and more prone, depending on the industry that you're in, data center, healthcare, all of that. Energy security is their bread and butter. And before, because of globalization, we thought, okay, I turn on the light and it's going to come. Well, it has a source, it has a provenance. In 2022, it's impossible to not be mindful of where it comes from. It's just, you didn't do the research, you just didn't want to know. And that's, I think, is what's changing now. And it's an amazing thing for renewable, because if you're able to empower people to say, hey, you might not have any electricity bill in 10 years. So if you leave a business to the next generation, like we talk a lot to family businesses, because those are really the SME type that we want to save. Like, those are really where we believe the biggest craftsmanship comes from, the biggest knowledge and the biggest training, because we really need training and apprenticeship if we want to create the new economy. And when you tell a business owner that owns the business, if you do this in 10 years, you just give your business to your kids or your cousin, or you sell it without electricity bill, they see how the legacy can be passed on. They actually see, yeah, actually, I can do that.
Exactly. And one of the other things I wanted to pick up on as well is, like, when you said, like, when you were on the boat, you had this one little dial that effectively would decide whether you're going to be able to charge your phone if you had one, do the washing or whatever. And actually, if you didn't, you didn't. So tell me a little bit more about how you use the power of data through the Oat network to kind of empower these SMEs to drive towards net zero, or like how
of course,
how does it help them?
So just to bounce back on what you said. So I had my first cell phone at 18. So I couldn't charge my cell phone on the phone. So I'm really into technology, but my first cell phone, I got it when I was 18, which I think saved me a lot. Now that I see when people got it so faster. But yeah, that's exactly the point, is you can't manage what you don't monitor.
Yeah.
Basic. It's valid in anything, whether it's staff performance, whether it's car petrol consumption. If you don't monitor, you can't manage it. Step one. So then I turn around the question is, how do you currently manage your energy consumption? Mm-hmm. And what is the mean of delivery? And 90% to 95% of consumers have their energy bill, which is a 1 month piece of paper that tells you a total, so what you owe, but nothing of what, how, when, and where.
Yeah.
So as an end user, it is physically impossible for you to do anything based on a bill. And if we think 30 seconds, it's normal. The person selling us the energy is no incentive to make us reduce. So they're very happy to keep the non-transparency and you need energy anyway to make you to operate your business. So it was too cheap to care before, to be honest. The energy at 15p, it was just too cheap to care. And every time we went to see a business, they were like, oh, why would I care about that? And I kept on saying, energy is going to go up. And when it does, it does. You will care. So data, all it does is it provides you a minute by minute possibility to inquire, what's my consumption right now?
Mm-hmm.
So we
can
don't
you give some like real live examples? So if there's people out there now listening who are SMEs, what are some of those nuggets of data that have given an aha moment?
I'll give some example, and I'll give some very specific example of how people can save. So number one is, when is the energy being used? As in, is the energy consumption matching the business opening hours? Mm-hmm. Number one, because if it's not, then you're having activities that you don't see from your machines at night when the business is not generating anything, and that's resulting in a higher bill, that's resulting in more pollution, and so on and so forth. So what we're trying to identify is, okay, what is your benchmark? Are there any things that you can implement smartly to save? And instead of saying, put LED and you will save X, you will save, we say, put LED, you will save X amount of pound, X amount of kilowatt, X amount of CO2. We're actually able to use the data to actually empower, if you do this, this happens. And the strength with our services, I'm not just telling it to you, you have the ability to check whether what you implemented got delivered. So that's why we sell ourselves as an energy concierge service. which is whatever you can do to reduce, you'll want to hear. Whether you implement it or not, it's your decision. But you'll want to hear it.
No, absolutely. And so how do you feel, because I'd like to talk both SME, I know Oak obviously is all about SME, but applying it to kind of everyday consumers, this kind of push on having these meters put into people's homes, what's your view on those, whether people are really utilising them or just, is it a positive move?
Technology will do what the person that controls it wants it to do. So smart meters are smart because they provide access to information. Yes. Now, who has access to this information? And me as the end user, can I have access to that information? And who do I have to ask to get access to that information? Some customer have to wait 6 months from their supplier to get their data because the supplier is not incentivized to give them the data and knows what they want their data for. So yes, the technology is the answer, but sustainability, it's not an Amazon Prime. It's not click and collect. You have to get involved. And what is important is, who do you give your data to and what do they do with your data? Simple as that. That's it. Data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. As a business, as a consumer, you produce a little bit of data that, if fed in a much bigger network, can really be disruptive for you and for the network.
So really then what I think, as more and more household consumers get these meters, it's really not for the benefit of the consumer, it's for the data that it collects for the companies, or?
No, it is for the benefit of the consumer, but the problem is, for example, smart meter, okay? Smart meters at homes, because of legislation, need to have a 24-hour delay so that if it's hacked or anything, you don't know what's happening. So if you're right now, I know that your fridge has just broken down, which, don't want to bring this up, but a failing fridge was at the original Grenfell Tower, the fire, a failing fridge. So a failing fridge can have massive impact.
Yeah.
And an electrical appliance doesn't fail unless it shows irregularity in its consumption. You're going to have its energy signature is going to start to bug.
Right.
So having this information right now allows you to affect it right now. Having it 24 hours doesn't affect it. It's too late. So it's having the data source. That's very smart. Having smart meter, having smart data generating technology is very smart. However, if the human gets to be smart, you need to get involved. The machine is not going to do it all for you. That's no.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of people, whilst we can see the meter kind of going like this and we can see a budget and whatever, we don't really know what to do with it. And also what I hear a lot of is, well, hold on a minute, it says this week I've used £23.80, for example, for all my energy, and I've roughly averaged that for 4 weeks. So then why am I being charged £300 for my bill?
That's the whole point, is that the smart meter, the way that it's being delivered to us at the moment, is that it gives you the information now. But do you have access? If I ask you, what was your consumption 3 days ago at 12:30? You have no way of accessing it. So they display the data because they have to legally, but they're not making the access to the data easy, because at Oak, when I monitor one of our members, after 12 months, I have their energy DNA of the site, which with this DNA, with this profile base, I'm able to use year 2 data to tell you how you're differentiating from what you did last year. And does it make sense or not? So if you have higher consumption, it was hotter, so you use more AC. That was normal. You had higher consumption, but it was cooler, so you should use less AC. That's not normal. That's a flag. And then you can look at, is the AC need of maintenance? Is the AC being properly managed? Is the AC being done that? You actually are able to see which root cause is causing the problem, and you bring the problem to the user. You don't just fix the problem and not tell him what the cause was or what it's like treating the symptoms doesn't make the disease going away. We don't want to treat the symptom. I tell you what the symptoms are, but I going to the bottom of it to tell you this is how you fix it.
Exactly. And so do you think, let's imagine everybody in the world, and we're obviously talking about very developed, privileged countries that can switch on a light and have electricity. So I'm very conscious that for a lot of people, that is not the case. They don't have that.
The biggest, I'll tell you why, but the biggest opportunity is in the non-developing world with data.
I 100% agree. And I think, let's just for a moment though, imagine the entire developed world that has access to infrastructure and a grid goes solar, right? What would that mean to our natural capital, to conservation, to all of those things? And can you imagine a world where that will happen? Because people are still going to make money. We've still got these stupidly high bills just to be on the grid.
Of course. So the Stone Age did not end because we ran out of stone. It ended because we found a more disruptive source of energy. It was a natural process. That's it. Simple as that. The post office did not sue the email inventor. Although the email is the biggest threat to the post office. Natural evolution. Technology will fix a problem and make it more accessible to others. So, to answer your question, solar is not just the answer. It's a mix of green technology. It's a mix of wind, it's a mix of hydro, it's a mix of everything based on the geographical location of the project, based on the actual demand, and based on when is the energy needed. If you look at Chile, for example, loads of solar. So during the day, they push water up a mountain so that at night, the water can go down the mountain through turbine and generate energy. So they're able to actually have a fully sustainable grid because but the data led to that. They didn't just plunk and be like, this is going to be enough. So that's step one. Do I see 100% powered world with renewable energy? Absolutely. Not because that's what we're pushing, that's what we need to get to as a civilization. There's no choice. I think lobbyists have done an amazing petrol lobbyists and have done an amazing job at keeping this industry for way longer than it should have. They've done an amazing job. Okay, kudos. But it ain't gonna stick around. It ain't gonna stick around because it can't. And at the moment, if you see all the big petrol company, they know it. They're just getting as much profit and extracting as much as they can because they know when the date is coming.
I was going to ask you that actually. How long do you think? It's interesting because, like, even last night I was watching a TV program and this advert came on, and it was about a bank saying, "Do you know what your bank does?" And it had this beautiful building with cracked walls and like oil and animals dying and all of this, and it was the cooperative bank. So we are starting to, and for those that probably have always been that way, kind of start to advertise. How long do you think these big players can keep squeezing it and just running at a pace to do what they can before? How long do you think we've got? 5 years, 30 years,
the answer,
50?
Nah, it's less. Like if you look at what's happening, it's way less than that. Way less than that, because we missold again. We missold the smart grid. You know, we were thinking, oh, we're gonna come from on top and just push smart grid. No way. It's going to come from within. You're going to have micro smart grid. So we're working, for example, with business parks. That's 300 to 500 businesses in 1 2-mile radius. I can make that 100% green, 100% renewable off grid within a year.
Brilliant.
Because we have the data. So and each business are very incentivized to share and the business park operator wants to be 100% green because he knows if a business goes out of business, another one's going to replace, and being green is what's going to attract other businesses. So this can't be stopped. That's I've seen enough to know that this cannot be stopped. Number one. Number two, the way we are financing those deals, community solar projects, community wind projects, where anybody, even from employees to whoever in the community, gets access to the energy company that's going to be created from the businesses needing energy, and you can actually invest your pension fund into renewable projects that are within your area that not only decarbonize, but have 10, 20, 30-year contract with local businesses. We're just going to take all middlemen out. It's just going to be consumer, producer. That's it.
That's exciting. It's that, yeah. I can feel the energy.
You want to go super far. How was internet sold 10 years ago? Per kilobyte.
Don't know.
Per kilobyte. You had to have contracts per kilobyte. You bought the internet, your connection. It was the first lines and everything. You bought now 10 years now, it's unlimited. Why? Because they know what as users we need, and they know what they can produce. We have 90% predictability 1 month in advance on what our members are going to use. Meaning a world of unlimited 100% renewable energy contract, if you're monitored, if you pay attention to the way you consume, and if you're part of a bigger network, financially, there's nothing stopping from a model for like that from being developed.
So actually, with all things climate, green, ESG, whatever you're talking about, we're talking about managing, as you say, 100% agree. If you're not measuring something, you can't manage it. So managing the data, but sharing the data is as critical as a collaboration. So let's dive in a little bit more. Give me some examples of some of the behavioural changes that businesses have made, and can you quantify? Is this 10% annually? Is it 20% annually?
Yeah. So on average, so we offer a sort of a 1 month energy health check for free to our members, so we can prove to them how we're going to use their data and everything before they sign, because we don't believe in the pay up front and then save. It's see how you can save and everything. So on our first 12 months journey, we are anywhere on average from 12 to 30% savings yearly. So it's very important to remember that you have 50% of it are behavior change and 50% of it are CapEx investment. You will have to finance new technologies to get those savings delivered. Oak just enables you to optimize those savings, make sure your ROI is delivered, and make sure that the whole process is bankable, so you can actually go to a bank and get the whole thing financed.
So effectively, although we might save, even at the lower end, we might save 10%, that 10% has got to fund the CapEx and the return on investment, when they break even, and that could be 5 or 10 years.
Exactly. Like, it is a journey. Like, it's a journey. You're not going to get away with it like that. And but there's loads of things that you can do, loads and loads. And to give you in terms of example, like, we had one bar group that we work with who one of the general managers is fed up with his team because they forget to constantly turn off the air conditioning at night at the end of the shift. And he had an idea that there was a specific manager that would do it, and they tried training and all that. We just had our data. We were able to tell them when it happens, how long it takes, and what it costs. That's it. The general manager went back to his team and was like, "Oh, guys, we've been trying for 6 months to tell you to be careful about the AC. Now we are going to have an alert. You're going to receive an alert on your mobile phone letting you know before you leave the place that you haven't shut the AC. If you don't respond to that answer, £20 of the tip jar." That's it. And everybody's mindful about it now. It's entering, and that's what the Oak Network works as well. Is we have developed a sort of a training program. So it's called Oak Coach, where we utilize the data to do staff training and staff engagement program at the venue level, because we know that if the people on the ground are not aware of what's happening and do not bring their knowledge, because they're super smart, those guys, there's no communication. Some of them tell us, "Oh, you should do this, we could do that, what about this?" Oh wow, they're feeding the algorithm of their own businesses. It's just they have to say it once, and then the algorithm learns and is able to repeat it constantly without him having to think about it, which means they're thinking of the next step and the next step and the next step.
The reality is, I do it at home quite a lot with my kids, and I go through phases where every time I find a room with a light left on, I find them £1. And we do this for a couple of weeks, and then they're like livid, and then we're all right for 5 or 6 months, and then it starts again. But I think that it's not just the awareness of hitting them in the pocket and saying, "This is how much it costs." Taking it to that next level and going, "Do you understand?"
We believe in, you can either tax bad behavior or you can reward good behavior, or you can incentivize good behavior. That's just the way it goes. Taxing bad behavior, as you've seen with your kids, work for a while, then forgets. And the problem with that, and the problem we have with climate change is, if we don't get something seriously changing and we keep falling back into our whole habits every 3 to 4 months, there's no impact. There's no sustainability. There's no circular economy. It's like, we work a lot with schools because we have a non-for-profit that helps the school achieve those savings for free. because kids are like schools are having to reduce, and the teachers are adamant. If this is a 1 week around sustainability and you guys disappear, no way. We need constant flow. We need yearly feedback. We need you guys to come back and educate, because they realize that, like, we want to challenge the let's say the 8th grade class, so that next year the new 8th grade class has to do better than the one before. And if they do better, there'll be a feeling of, oh, I did better than those guys. It's a competition. You know, there is healthy way to compete. I don't think competition is bad. I think competition is amazing if it's healthy.
I agree. No, I do. I totally agree. I think it's, and kids
We
are
have
brilliant at that.
Another case study where we had over a small period of time, where we had 2 boarding school, one all boy, one all girl, opposite of the street. And I was just like, this is gold, because you're going to see the different approach of boys versus girl on sustainability, and both are correct. Both are right. It's not A versus B, it's A plus B equals sustainability. And I think it leads back to one of the biggest challenges we're having now is equality. It's not girl thinking like man or man thinking like girl. It's both of us saying how we feel and how we want this to be fixed, and finding a way that suits everyone. It's challenging, it takes time, but we don't have another way out.
Although, can I just say, when it came down to the raw data, who won, the girls or the boys?
Completely different approach. The boys were more into it and everything, whereas the girls were more about thinking about, okay, what's sustainable? What are the small things that we can do that are repetitive, and it was just insane. Like, the boys obviously spent a lot of time trying to figure out, can we connect the gym, because they had a big rugby team, because they wanted the rowing machine to produce energy, because they're like, it's a different approach, but it's not a bad one. And if you mix this plus the learning, plus the training, and obviously the ladies had more like, there's a lot of waste. Why should we change a lot of stuff if there is waste that this can be eliminated? Boys don't look at waste. It's like bigger, better, you know? I want to do something that's so big that I'm remembered in history. No, not when it comes to sustainability.
It's actually, I'm being facetious in asking that question, but there is a lot of sort of talk and data now about the rise of we do need A and B, and to collaborate, because we need the diversity of opinions and approaches. But there is a lot, it seems to be that there's a lot of women charging ahead in this sector industry.
Has to be.
Yeah.
When I started
it's called Mother Nature for a reason.
When I started the solar industry 15 years ago, it was only dudes.
Yeah.
It was horrible. There was no, and the conversation that only dudes have, they're not sustainable. No, sorry. It's, you know, it's just the way it goes. And it's just, you can't, like, because, this is weak to ask, or this is a weak comment or anything. No, we need to ask and consider everyone. And that's what I keep on repeating the team is, if you ever hear anything that we do that you don't like, raise it, because how much percentage of our customers or members are going to think exactly like you? I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. And as the CEO of Oak, my job is not to take the decision. I decide last. My team votes, and either we have a unanimous vote. Yeah. Therefore, my job is easy, or we don't have a unanimous vote, which means I'm going to piss off someone, and there's no way. There's no way. And especially, like, I was raised by my mother. It's like, if a lady has an opinion and everything, and she's not being listened to, I'm not going to go against her. I'm going to make sure we talk it out as a team, because I don't want my ladies at the team to get angry, or to get to leave, or to not be heard, because it's the reason why the industry is where it is. Exactly. Because we didn't listen. Exactly. We didn't listen. We just wanted to know, and wanted to be like, oh, I know where to take us. We don't know where it's going to take us. We want it to be greener. We want it to be better, and we want it to be more sustainable. That's the aim. That's the target. Be stubborn about the mission, and flexible on how you get there.
Yeah, I think, look, it's okay. We're going to make some major mistakes, and we'll get things wrong, but that's how we learn, and I think that's okay. I guess what's frustrating for a lot of people, whether you're a household consumer or an SME, is, it feels so cost prohibitive to, have a heat source pump, to have solar, because, like you say, you need a combination. Actually, if I could put solar on my house, have a heat pump and have a little wind turbine, I'd be happy, but I haven't got
But
45, 50,000 pounds.
and that's exactly what we tell all our members and everybody that really wants to do something is you get access to the data. With data, you can run, I don't know, 1 million assumptions a minute. Which that's the problem is as a homeowner or as a business owner, what's my potential in terms of wind, solar, battery? All of this requires communication because if you want to have EV charging point, there's no point in you changing anything unless you consider what type of EV charging point you need. It's a matrix. It's a mix of different technologies, of different things that need to come together in a sort of a symphony so that the sustainable orchestra can just and the planet and there's no emission and that's transparency that only data can provide that level of transparency.
Exactly. Listen, I'm sure it's such a hot topic right now. In fact, I know Kwasi Kwarteng is currently speaking about this right now and declaring the budget here in the UK, and it really is a hot topic. But I'm behind you. I have every faith that in the next decade or so, this is just going to be every day. It's an exciting space to be in. So thank you for sharing with us your journey and what our network does. Thanks again for coming on the show. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely welcome. You're more than welcome. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. So that's it. You've made it. The show's over. Thank you for being with us. I hope you've been able to take something away, maybe solve a problem, or just know you're not alone. Here's hoping it made you smile with a few laughs along the way. Please feel free to find me on all social media channels, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just search the Road and Morale podcast. Have an awesome day and see you next time.